Australia was founded on traditions and institutions inherited from Great Britain, which helped form our nation. One of these was the rule of law. Nothing better illustrates the importance of the rule of law than the legal battle fought by two convicts, Henry and Susanna Cable, here in Sydney in 1788. This was to become Australia's first civil case. The rule of law is a set of principles vital to the order and stability of our society. It means that no one is above the law, not even the lawmaker. It was a concept initially established in the Magna Carta. I spoke to Dr. David Neal, SC, about the rule of law.
The rule of law is a very old idea, and there's lots of puzzling about where it originally comes from, but we certainly know that it goes far back as the ancient Greeks. And it's an idea that people are going to be governed by rules rather than by the whim or the dictates of a king or a dictator or a bunch of dictators. So by the time of the Magna Carta, for example, there was still a very strong monarchy and a group of barons who were the essential governors of England. The Magna Carta is an agreement between the kings and the barons about who could do what to whom in that situation. The big claim to the rule of law is that it's a protector of individual rights, and where those rights are threatened or not being provided either by a citizen or, most importantly, by government, there is an independent source of power, namely the legal system, which can defend those rights or assert them as the case requires.
Here's how the rule of law came to Australia. In 1787, King George III signed the Letters Patent, also known as the First Charter of Justice. This established the rule of law in the new penal colony in New South Wales. When Captain Arthur Phillip led the First Fleet into Botany Bay in 1788, he brought with him this First Charter of Justice. This is an important document because it provided the authority to establish the civil and criminal courts in New South Wales. Just 2 weeks after having arrived in Botany Bay, the First Charter of Justice was read to an assembled group of free men and women, as well as convicts. The law of England was now the law of the new territory. It's wrong to think that the British colony was a place where people had no rights. Importantly, everyone was equal before the law, free and convicts alike. When Governor Phillip was planning the new colony in 1786, he wrote, "The laws of this country will, of course, be introduced in New South Wales. There can be no slavery in a free land, and consequently no slaves." This was remarkable because slavery was then still legal in some parts of the United States and in French, Portuguese and Spanish colonies. The First Charter of Justice was not just theoretical, but it was put into practice just 6 months after the arrival of the First Fleet, with Australia's first civil case. The case began in Norwich Castle Jail in early 1786. 2 inmates, Henry Cable and Susanna Holmes, had both been convicted of breaking and entering, and were sentenced to death. It was there, in prison, that they met and had a child. This took place when the British government was deciding which convicts to transport in the First Fleet. Due to the shortage of female convicts, Susanna and the other female prisoners were to be sent to Botany Bay. Meanwhile, Henry and the child were to remain in England. The ordeal attracted public attention, and after much outcry, Henry, Susanna and their child were to be transported together. As a sign of sympathy for Henry and Susanna, Lady Cadogan, the wife of a British politician, raised £15, which is nearly 3,000 Australian dollars today. This was enough for the family to buy a parcel of goods to take with them for their new life in the penal colony. But when they finally arrived in Botany Bay, they discovered that the parcel had gone missing. Presumably, it had been stolen by someone on the way. Henry and Susanna then decided to sue the captain of the ship, Duncan Sinclair, as the goods were charged to his care. Henry and Susanna Cable issued this writ. Their case was heard by David Collins, the judge advocate, who found for the convicts and made a substantial award in their favour.
They were allowed to sue, and they won. And hey presto, two people here as convicts are able to sue the captain of the ship, a very powerful person in that circumstance, and won.
This story is extraordinary because two convicts, one of whom was a woman, and both of whom were sentenced to death in England, were able to sue the captain. And even more remarkably, they won. None of this would have been possible had it not been for the British institution of the rule of law. For more videos on the rest of this series, please visit our website at ipa.org.au/Heritage of Our Freedoms.